Laughter in limitation, the comedic appeal of inappropriate NPC reactions. NPCs occupy a unique place in gaming culture, enriched by both beloved camaraderie and playful mockery. Their predictable behavior patterns and repetitive dialogues stand out as artifacts of underlying gameplay and technical necessities. Yet at the same time, highlights of their awkward limitations evoke surprising empathy. Players laugh with as much as at them, recognizing shared constraints as well as simplicity. One manifestation of this curious position appears when otherwise inappropriate NPC reactions amuse rather than frustrate players. Moments of tone-deaf responses or oblivious behaviors reliably entertain across genre and context. But the sources provoking appreciative laughter often reveal multi-layered insights. This paper will explore the several reinforcing factors conspiring to produce uniquely amusing reactions when NPCs act questionably in terms of reasoning, timing, or tone. The inappropriate non-sequiturs simultaneously subvert expectations, underscore AI restrictions, reinforce autonomous impressions, and introduce unplanned absurdity. Additionally, transparent flaws foster counterintuitive sympathy rather than contempt. Examining these influences offers wider lessons for deepening emotional bonds to the artificial assistants guiding our journey into emerging high-technology frontiers. The thesis therefore is that inappropriate NPC dialogue creates humor by subverting player expectations of normalcy, illustrating unavoidable limitations in current game design, and giving illusions of life beyond programmed behaviors. But it also reveals our willingness to celebrate efforts despite unavoidable flaws in execution. These dimensions together transmute predictable errors into beloved features, offering Delphic wisdom, rather than grounds for dismissal. Inappropriate reactions subvert expectations. One major factor that makes inappropriate NPC dialogue humorously amusing is when their reactions subvert the expectations players have built up. Many players come to games with assumptions of normal behavior informed by real life or past gaming experience. So when NPCs then respond oddly to events happening around them, it creates surprise by deviating from those anticipations. A common manifestation of this effect comes from NPCs demonstrating obliviousness to clear clues or events in their vicinity. For example, in stealth games, guards will investigate noises then return to their rounds even after the player character performs visible actions like extinguishing light sources only meters away. The NPCs brush off signs of an intruder that would logically maintain elevated alertness. Their rapid readiness to dismiss the suspicious in favor of normalcy seems absurd, ignorant of reality. Likewise, NPCs in open-world games, set in modern cities, might initiate violence against the player even when faced with disproportionate firepower. A civilian trying to mug someone wielding outlandish sci-fi weaponry subverts assumptions of self-preservation instincts. It suggests an irrational judgment contrary to common sense. In both these cases, the surprise stems from NPCs acting ignorant or reckless rather than afraid in compromising situations. This irony created by subverted expectations ruptures suspension of disbelief while also amusing our insight into the limitations of programmed behaviors. By thoughtlessly moving to restore patterns without considering context, game AI undermines the consistency which players take for granted. The resulting comedy of errors effect adjacency makes these moments humorously memorable despite exposing flaws behind the curtain. Highlights current limits of AI systems. In addition to subverted expectations, the humor in context inappropriate NPC reactions also serves to highlight the present constraints facing artificial intelligence that drives their behavior. Game developers have made huge strides in creating more adaptive and realistic systems for controlling NPC actions. However, the humorous gaps shown in cases of tone-deaf dialogue or actions demonstrate there are still improvements needed for truly responsive automated assistants. For example, NPC guards alerted by disturbances who then fail to thoroughly investigate or remain vigilant underscore difficulties in coding cumulative information states. The NPC response relies on simplistic rule sets rather than maintaining suspicion elevated by accumulating evidence. Their premature readiness to dismiss unresolved anomalies betrays the narrow situational awareness afforded by current game AI. Likewise, even innovations like day-night cycles fall short when shopkeepers don't adjust opening hours or citizens have no homes to retire to. While attempting more advanced autonomous behaviors, the systems still operate rigidly rather than adapting to context. The humor arises from our awareness of logical gaps that could be addressed by more sophisticated AI with accumulated knowledge and planning. By revealing areas where advanced algorithms still struggle, the identified inappropriate NPC behaviors amuse by reinforcing they remain the butt of jokes, exposing technological limitation rather than achieving the illusion of seamless intelligence. Players are invited to laugh both at and with them as foils caught by technical restrictions outside their digital control. Our appreciation for humor directed at their expense thus also betrays empathy for their confined coding. Supports illusion of NPC independence. Although stemming partially from limitations in sophistication, the entertaining inappropriate reactions from NPCs also help strengthen player immersion by supporting ongoing illusions of distinctive identity and lives existing apart from player interactions. Their unexpected or head-scratching dialogue may expose simplistic underlying programming, but also builds a perception of personal autonomy. For example, ambient conversations containing offbeat topics like discussing plans for drinks or complaining about weather establishes a sense of pre-existing relationships, feeding the impression of backstories unfolding separately from current events. Even if ultimately repeating the same scripted lines, the illusion suggests fully rounded lives occurring off-screen. Likewise, stock personalities emerge from accentuated reactions or recurring quirky phrases. Guards fearful of mundane threats or bandits inducing each other to outraged vengeance builds consistent traits. When similar responses recur, they take on running gag status associated with those characters. This builds recognition and appreciation for them as distinguishable entities separate from faceless extras. So while the crude or repetitive nature of inappropriate conducts betrays limitation in capturing true consciousness, at a surface level it still reinforces engaging perceptions of identity. This supports our emotional investments and suspension of disbelief rather than undermining them completely. The impression suggests potential still to build upon to achieve future AI passing more rigorous tests. But shortcomings meanwhile humorously play to expectations that encourage projection of inner vibrancy. Adds unintended comedy through flaws. Inappropriate NPC reactions that produce humor don't always originate from intentional choices. Rather than deliberately engineered by developers, some amusing moments come from unintended flaws in execution. While glitches causing game-breaking consequences rightly draw player frustration, more benign errors in animation timing or dialogue delivery can also inadvertently heighten comedy. For example, physics bugs sending enemies flying skyward like rag dolls when struck builds on innate slapstick comedy traditions. Even when not intentionally choreographed, the exaggerated responses tickle our funny bones. Likewise, voices overlapping or repeating lines ad absurdum warps tone from immersive lifelikeness into accidental parody. These surface flaws magnify existing simplicity of coded behaviors by piling add additional layers of visible scenes, splitting artifice from reality. Yet stripped of damaging impacts, the resultant glitches amuse by increasing transparency of efforts to mimic intricacy fall short. We gain comedic appreciation for the attempt despite unavoidable hiccups disrupting polished illusions. Such unplanned flaws expose and celebrate limitations rather than detracting from achievement by showing designers reach beyond current grasp. As with appreciating childish drawings, we find charm in ambition imperfectly realized but appealingly earnest. And the humor gives defects to a beloved character that earns forgiveness rather than condemnation. Unintentional goofs become features rather than liabilities when keeping us laughing together at delightful spectacle. creating sympathy for NPCs. A curious secondary effect stemming from the comedy of inappropriate NPC behaviors is how recognizing their origins in technical restrictions also fosters player empathy towards these characters. When appreciating the illusion of their autonomy is pierced, awareness of their limited programming makes them sympathetic rather than contemptible figures. Like minor characters in farcical films denied full dimensionality by their roles, the more we laugh at the NPC's failure to achieve believability, the more we invest in cheering their efforts. Their automated responses take on poignant overtones as echoes of captive minds rather than confirming absence of inner lives. We thus extend good faith and benefit of doubt similar to that often granted likable simpletons in fiction. This sympathetic reaction appears an inversion of assumptions that might paint the stereotypical comedy fool as object for ridicule and disbelief rather than emotional connection. But perhaps by reflecting player avatars' own reduction to prescripted paths, NPC challenges serve as microcosms for tensions facing all digital game constructs vying for resonance. The puppet-like clowns become universal underdogs representing dreams of better living through coding. So while illuminating present constraints in technology, appreciating NPC awkwardness also bonds players in solidarity. Their faltering slapstick persona become tragicomedically heroic as epitomes of unavoidable limitations. We laugh with as much as at them, mutually navigating narrow pathways towards unlikely transcendence. Conclusion? As explored, the appreciation and entertainment players derive from inappropriate NPC reactions stems from a variety of reinforcing factors. Unexpected responses, subvert assumptions in amused reveal of unpredictable behaviors. The visible failures highlight continuing challenges facing advanced AI seeking context-aware interactions. Yet they simultaneously strengthen engagement by adding color of imagined autonomy beyond current constraints. Additionally, the unintended comedy introduced by flaws and glitches piles on good-humored chaotic absurdity within reasonable bounds. And running throughout, recognizing the source of humor in restrictive coding fosters unexpected empathy. Their quirky but canned replies render NPCs sympathetic carriers of our shared visions escaping eventual obsolescence. Moving forward, more advanced algorithms offer promise for deepening the layers of illusion further. But part of the charm found presently derives from transparency of necessary shortcuts contrasted against extravagant dreams. The tension between ambitious reach and inevitable mechanical deconstructions retains inherently comedic potential waiting to be explored by designers as well as players. By thoughtfully utilizing the influences examined here, game developers can intentionally craft NPC interactions leveraging inevitable limitations as strengths rather than weaknesses. Building constructively upon the scaffolding of simplicity could produce surprising money moments paying off appreciative emotional investments down the road. Carefully engineering the unexpected within familiar frameworks sustains engagement rather than unbuilding make-believe magic's best left unexplained.